don't know. Drugs are out, sex is out, politics are out. Everything is on hold. I mean, we definitely need something new. I just keep waiting for some new voice to come out of somewhere and just say, hey. Business. I got my wild cherry Diet Pepsi, and I got my blackjack gum here, and I got that feeling. Yeah, that familiar feeling that something rank is going down out there.
Where secrets lie in the border fires and the humming wires. Yeah, man, you know you're never coming back. Across the square, across the bridge, past the mills, past the stacks. On a gathering storm comes a tall, handsome man in a dusty black coat with a red right hand. Wrap you in his arms, tell you that you've been a good boy. He'll rekindle all the dreams that took you a lifetime to destroy. He'll reach deep into the hole, heal your shrinking soul, but there won't be a single thing that you can do. He's a god, he's a man, he's a ghost, he's a guru. They're whispering his name through this disappearing land, but hidden in his coat is a red right hand.
And if
You can't believe it. It's a Friday once again.
Greetings! At the end of every alleyway rests the darkest part of the ink-like shroud of the shadow. And in Gotham's godforsaken geography, this is no different. Two fog-soaked halves of a tale told in ash and anguish lay at the docket tonight. This is not the Gotham of gadgets or grappling hooks. No, my friends, this is the Gotham of ghosts. Of men made of mud and memories, of monsters that don't just hide on the edges of the darkness, but walk into your living room and ask to borrow a cup of your conscience. Scribed in iron-spiked ink and illustrated with the jagged urgency of an autopsy sketch, where a shapeshifter is driven by sin, is born, and seeks not carnage but catharsis. It is not a crime story. It's a character excavation sculpted in sorrow. It's about identity, illusion, and the incurable itch to rewrite one's past. But be warned, sometimes the mask doesn't come off once we don it, and some monsters mourn more beautifully than men. Welcome to the gutter. Everyone ends up here eventually. It is only a matter of time. I am your host, Aldous. This is my co-host, JP. JP, how are we doing today, man?
I'm doing good, man. I just got back from another local event, and I moved a fair amount of both Eudaimonia and New Orleans to the local population.
That's the most retarded thing I've ever heard.
I had to do it.
What? That was the most normal thing I ever said to start an episode.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's an expectation. You've raised the bar. I mean, you limboed underneath it way low with that super normie take, but yeah, good deal, man. Let's schlock accordingly here. If you go over to BarnesandNoble.com right now and type in New Orleans, you can get New Orleans Listen for $20. How do you have any idea how it's selling so far, or do you not have any numbers?
No, I won't know until the end of the quarter.
Gotcha. And then if you head over to Fund My Comic, obviously you've got a link up there and a campaign running for signature books. Thoughts on that? Any changes you're planning on that, or is that just it is what it is and we're running with that?
No, but I mean, I would like to have a logistical discussion with you because of off air, of course, because I want to make sure that I'm shipping better or not shipping in a way that may cause offense. So, shipping 2 books in a single Gemini mailer, is that a faux pas? Should I go for something bigger? What can I do to protect them, et cetera, et cetera?
Gotcha. Yeah, we can certainly have that conversation. Shorthand is real simple. You don't ever want the Gemini mailer to bow. So once you just drop your books in and you fold it over, as long as it folds and it's square, you're fine. If it starts bowing, you're probably going to have problems. The worst thing you can do is to put like a pin or a coin or anything that has the possibility to indent. Because what more than likely, if it's a flat parcel, it's going to be going through a roller press, and that'll indent the cover of the book. But that's more detailed than anybody wanted. I could do a whole show on the hazards and dangers of how to back a book.
I would love to hear your soliloquy at the beginning about printing and about shipping comics safely.
As the legend goes, I had a daddy-daughter dance, and then a bunch of us got together and just kind of hung out of the dads while the daughters played, and imbibed a couple of adult beverages with respectable, responsible assurances. And then we drove home, and we're respectable and responsible because we didn't get intoxicated. But I got back to my house this is 3.5 years ago now, and I hopped on CG Talk at the time and cracked another one open, and I was about halfway through that, and I was just lucid enough to make a comment about printing, which then famously led to Jasper joining the stream and having an argument with Shelby about printing for like an hour. and I have never seen viewers bleed more. It
Mm.
was amazing. But also, dude, you've got Eudaimonia book 3. Goodbye. You're at
Mm.
61 backers. You've gained a backer since Wednesday,
Oh,
so congratulations. You're over $2,500, so congratulations on that as well. Any comments on how this campaign's going for you? Because
well, that
you're
new
doing pretty
backer
well.
must have just rolled in, so I'm genuinely curious because I was really, pushing out and you know what? No, it wasn't. I was giving out like the bookmarks that have a QR code of the campaign, so I was kind of curious if somebody had jumped on that from the event tonight, but no, it was not. But yeah, 11 days left. Hopefully making it to the 3K story unlock. And yeah, it's actually the book is almost done. It's going to be into the hands of my pre-press sooner rather than later.
Awesome. And do you mind me asking who you have doing your pre-press?
You know what? I kind of do because it's somebody who is. I think I have an inkling that they're a little bit they're serious about keeping what they do under wraps. But it is
Oh
somebody
yeah,
and I'll
not a
tell you
problem
back
at
in the
all.
back room.
Not a problem at all. Just wanted to, if there was anybody out there you wanted to make a recommendation for any, because honestly, pre-press, like you can find editors, they're a dime a dozen. You can find letterers, they're a dime a dozen. Pre-press people, good pre-press people, don't seem to be that readily available. So
Right.
anytime you can get a chance to, shout one out and say, hey man, they're doing a great job, and I'm really looking forward to working with this guy, and he's done great. And so they can get more work and direct more work their way, because that is one thing that most people aren't prepared for in the indie scene. But not to dwell on that, just to move on and to get back into things, let's greet some of the people that are in our wonderful chat this evening. We got Awesome One was the first one tonight. He says, dude, great to see you. Citizen Ronan says, bro. Henry Bemis, man. Snugs, what's up? And scrolling down, we've got whole bunch of people talking and then me talking. There we go. Dale A has joined us. Alan Grant is the top 3 Batman writer. No disagreement. Absolutely not. Alan Grant's one of my favorite comic writers ever. And actually, it's funny. It's only funny because of how things worked out. 3 years ago, I didn't know JP from Adam, and he was on Jeremy's show, CG Talk, on a Saturday, and it happened to be the Saturday after Alan Grant passed away 3 years ago. And I did a little soliloquy, and I clipped it. And I don't know if you even remember, JP, but you said some really nice things after I finished my soliloquy. So I've always appreciated that about you, and I think that kind of formed the bridge for where we started talking a little bit, that you were like, man, you really care about comics. And I like that. I was like, hey, I appreciate that you like that. And let's talk more.
Well,
But
so few people here do.
And
But it is a nice hat to wear for many. Again, not naming any names.
right. But I will be playing that clip at the very end of this episode, because Alan Grant is one of my favorite comic writers, and just like last week's episode was kind of dedicated to Jim Shooter, this week's episode is kind of dedicated to Alan Grant and his memory. But so yeah, man, I appreciate that, Dale. And scrolling down, we got Belmont joining us. And Belmont, I did receive my copy of Pencils Down. I apologize. This week has been absolutely crazy, and I haven't even gotten a chance to open it yet. But I will be opening it and posting a picture here soon. And then Kayla has joined us. Great to see Kayla. She just saw Fantastic Four with her dad, and her dad's review was awesome. She posted like about a minute review, 60 seconds, 90 seconds review of a lifelong Fantastic Four fan and what he thought of the film. Couldn't disagree with him at all. Like, it's a great review, very succinct, perfectly done. And scrolling down, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. What's this hippie crap, man? Dude, that was Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Who doesn't like Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds? What the hell's wrong with you people?
Yeah, people who hate goths.
Well, there's that. There's that, I suppose. Did anyone punch you for your restaurant reviews, JP?
Wait, what?
What?
No, not yet. But there's always hope.
Prater 7 has joined us, and I apologize for the cough. I'm pulling my best Zach impression tonight, it would seem. And there's Jason Sandberg. He's joining us. Great to see Mr. Sandberg. And scrolling down, people talking about all-girl punk bands, and yeah, there you go. Did your dad enjoy gay Kloppy? Ooh, not sure what that has to do with. But in any case, tonight's show is dedicated and focusing on 2 issues of Batman Legends of the Dark Knight. But before we get into that, there are 2 other things that I do want to talk about. The first of which is my good friends, the Diaz brothers. They will be launching their Western comic that is, if you're a 90s art fan, you will love this. If you're a Western fan in the sense of more probably like a 70, like late 60s, 70s, 80s Western, you're going to love this. It's a really good book. I've had the privilege of reading it a couple of times and looking through it. The art is fantastic. The story's pretty damn good, and they're really working with something here that I think will probably become I don't think it'll ever become as big as the Lost Pages, but it's gonna rival it long term once they get a couple of issues in on this. It's really gonna captivate people. So make sure you head on over and sign up for that. And the other thing is, I can't really say he's a friend. It's just one of those Twitter associations that you find. But Hernan Draws, and it's his @ is at HERNAN Draw on Twitter. So Hernan Draw on Twitter does some fantastic work, and he dropped this today. It's going to be on a published work. It's a fantastic piece, and I just want to give him a shout out. Looks great. Go give him a follow and buy his stuff, man. But yeah, tonight's topic is Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, issues 89, which is this one, and 90. They retail for right now about $8 to $9 a piece, if you can believe it. You can find them in dollar bins, but they're pretty. If you find Batman Legends of the Dark Knight, any issue in a dollar bin, just grab it. They're all good. From like issue 1 to a little into the 100s, I would just safe bet 1 to 100. You find one, buy it for $1. Some of them are more collectible than others. These happen to be Alan Grant issues, so they have a higher value, and they're actually really good. But this is so 89 and 90. This is Alan Grant, famously wrote for 2000 AD, one of the best Batman writers that's out there. The art on this is done by Enrique, or as he is credited, Kike Alcantara, or Alcantena. I'm going to butcher his last name all night. Fantastic South American artist. Really, he got a little bit of mainstream work, but it was never enough to really take off. Did a lot more like midstream work, but very, very impressive stuff. Before we dive into the books, JP, just as a 10,000-foot view, what were your thoughts?
I enjoyed this greatly. I mean, the art, I'm sure you'll go deep into the weeds on, but in terms of the writing, I really enjoy the story of a hero and a villain when neither one is neglected, and there is a very clear story arc for both. I feel like a lot of the hero tales I do not enjoy treat one of those as if it is less important than the other. And so in that regard, I enjoyed this a lot.
Awesome, man. Henry Bemis says, I'm scared to see it. Fantastic Four is my favorite Marvel property. So I'm trying to find the words, which is rare for me, but I watched this last weekend, the Fantastic Four movie, and I'll just say this. If you're an absolute diehard Fantastic Four fan, Kirby and Byrne era especially, you will not love the movie. You'll like it a lot, and there's some great little Easter eggs spread throughout it, and it's really serviceable, but it's not going to move you. It's not emotionally going to be driving you to go like, this is fantastic. It's just a good movie, and I'd rate it like 6.5 to 7 in that range. But scrolling down, we got Alan Grant's book wasn't as long as the one that guy Baker wrote. Oh, there you go. I think that's a Jurassic Park reference. And we've got Son of God, or
Student of God.
Yeah, Student of God. So great to see him, man. But yeah, to get into the meat of this this book, So we're going to start with issue 89, and we're going to go through this a little bit rough because the story jumps around a little bit. And I think that's what really makes this work. It's just a 2-issue run. Neither issue follows what I would normally consider my standard for what I want to see in a comic. And what I want to see in a comic is an encapsulated story that maybe has like a page or two at the end that draws me into the next book. That's not the case here. You don't get that. It's a 2-part story, and really the first book, issue 89, is almost entirely exposition. Would you agree with that, JP?
Yeah, you're talking about the narration.
Yeah, and how the narration is structured, and how the story is paced. And we open up with Batman beat to a pulp, and great art, by the way, too. I mean, you turn the cover and you immediately get phenomenal art with the light shining down. Alfred's coming across Batman, and this is where we start to find out that, and this is something that, so Batman Legends of the Dark Knight was an anthology series, and so you might grab an issue and it might be a part 1 of 5. And then when that one's over, it's going to be a 2-parter or a 3-parter, or it might be a standalone issue. And then after that, there might be another 3 or 4-parter, and then there'll be a 5-parter, and there'll be a 2-parter. But you're going to get stories that are out of sequence, that are all over the map. They can be Elseworld, they could be mainstream. It's just good stories. And I wish more comics would do this, where all we're focused on is story. It's not about canonical or any kind of an arc. It's just, here's a story. Like, imagine a book where you just read a great story by Grant Morrison, and then the next issues are by a guy like Alan Grant. And that's what this was. It was the A-lister guys. You'd get inks by Klaus Janson on a series, and the next time you turned around, it would be somebody just as amazing.
I really enjoyed this for how disorienting the perspective is here. I mean, you have major lines going in every direction possible.
And I think that's a credit to the artist on this. Kike Alcantena absolutely killed it. And I'm going to be praising his art throughout this, as you suggested earlier. But the writing, to me, and how the writing drifts back and forth from character perspectives is just as important. And in this story, it's a bifurcated story between 2 men that are obsessed in different ways. One is just starting his journey. This is Batman 3 weeks in to being Batman. It's year 0, essentially. We're not even in year 1. And you get a different context for how things work. But I wanted to highlight this page, one, because of the layouts, and the layouts in this style where you get that zoomed in quality as you drift down to the lower right is going to be a continuing pattern, as are the excellent work on the art of the face. The face in this sells this series just as much as the writing does. The art to capture the emotion on the faces is just absolutely epic. But we move through, and then we get something like this. And this is really cool because before, we've been playing with kind of a structured, rigid sense, but the artist is very open to trying new things. So as Batman is monitoring the situation and he's monitoring all this information, and as he's recanting it, we get the scene through the binoculars, and then we get a couple of inset panels, which is just, it's really nice. It's really subtle, but it's really nice that the artist understands how to engage on a panel like this, how to own it with Batman holding onto the spire of a church or a building while he's monitoring and surveilling this area. You get that inset panel of the binoculars, and then we move straight down into just standard inset panels. Really, really nice touches. And Legends of the Dark Knight is the best series of all time, says Daly. And it's hard to disagree with that because of that nature of the anthology series, like I said. Like Goosebumps, just story. Yeah, exactly. It's a really good way to put it. It's just a story. They have no interconnected nature. They're just there, and they're Batman stories. They're legends. It's like they're stories. You're hearing them all out of order, but they're fantastic. It's all the fantastic tales of Batman. They're not interconnected. There are interconnected groups. Like there'll be a 4 or 5 issue arc, and then 10 to 15 issues later, there'll be a sequel to it. but it's really good. Didn't Alan Grant write The Last American? I remember it being very 2000 AD. I believe he wrote The Last American. I can't remember if that's exactly the case or not. But moving forward in the book a little bit, you get Batman as he's investigating this mob situation where they're harassing a girl. Suddenly, a monster crashes in, and he starts combating him. But this is, again, in the past from when this occurred. He's recanting it. So where we start off is not the beginning of the story. We start off in the middle of the story. And then he's telling Alfred, after Alfred comes and picks him up, what happened. And then as we jump through, we get more of the fighting, more of the combat, and this giant monstrosity is impervious to bullets. And again, great
Panel 2.
art. What's that?
Oh, just panel 2. It's unbelievable.
Oh, it's fantastic. All of this book is it drips with pulp. And Batman was born out of Bob Kane and Bill Finger copying The Shadow famously. And so what Batman needs to have, in my mind, especially when you're talking about early Batman, early in his career, is he's a detective. He's not a superhero. He's the world's greatest detective. So you need to have a detective element, and that's going to come into the story. But the other thing you need to have is something that's over the top, it's pulpy, and it's got to be great. And in this case, Alan Grant's and the artist Al Catania is diving into the pulp body horror really well and making it fun.
Think about this for a second, though, right? Have you ever seen the clip of I've started down this road and I can't get away from it, but so let me just stop right there. Okay, so panel number 2, right? If you think about what is being depicted there, it's basically a blob of clay being shot at, and it's impervious to bullets. So it would just like go into it and nothing would happen, which that sounds like the most undynamic thing you can possibly imagine. And yet look at how dynamic that panel is.
No, for sure. There's a sense of urgency, there's a sense of action, and I think the most important thing is there's a sense of indomitability. Like he is unstoppable. He just got hit 5 times by a bullet, and it doesn't do anything. He keeps moving forward, and then he takes out the mobsters, and then you get Batman involved, and we get some great action. And I love panel 2 here because you get the impact, right? We see Batman getting hurt. And this is, I think, there's so many discussions online about the difference between Batman and Superman. The best part about Batman is he's mortal. He has no superpowers. So him getting his face smashed into a wall has ramifications. And the best part about this story that Alan Grant put is this affects Bruce Wayne. So it's not just he gets his face smashed into a wall early in this issue and he's fine 10 pages later. This carries over for the whole story. He is messed up after getting his ass beat by Clayface in this first introduction to him. But we see Batman's down and out. He gets tossed to the side, and then Clayface crushes the skull. And I loved panel 1 to 2's the transition. We talk a lot about action happens outside of or through the gutter. Here it is, right? He crushes the guy's skull, and Batman gets splattered with the blood. And then the monstrosity picks up the girl and carries her away as Batman passes out. I mean, just perfect storytelling, excellent. You talk about beat progression, you talk about momentum and building that impetus across pages. Boom, you've got it right here. It's textbook. And then we jump then back in time. Now we're in the present, and Alfred's helping Bruce around. And what do we have? We've got dialogue, but we also have narration. And one of the things that this book does really, really well, and my credit to the letterer on it, and in hindsight, I should have given credit to the letterer on it, but we've got different kinds of narration, and the different kinds of narration are highlighted by both the narration blocks, obviously being rectangles, but some are in script and different fonts and different colors mean different things. Are they in the present or the past? Are they being told by Bruce? Are they being told by somebody else? It's handled very eloquently as we go through this to delineate what we're doing so that there's no confusion. It's not just a white rectangle with letters on it. each one is in the character's voice.
Mm.
And then we get art like this. And again, I think of these two issues, like the main point, the panels are constructed and the page construction and layouts are done very well, but the face work by the
Yeah.
artist Alcantena is absolutely exquisite. And there is no greater example than panel 3 on this page, with the focus of her eye and the reflection of Clayface, who was
Mhm.
her boyfriend, and we're about to find out what he went through. But before we do that, we jump back to Bruce, and it's a narration of a dream that he's having with death, and he's dancing with death. And so we get we're starting to build up that exposition of the corollaries between these two characters. And we're
I like
starting
how
to build up
washed out it is. It looks like something from like the 60s or the 70s.
It does. It has that archaic look, and it really sells it that it's early in his career because of that. And then we drift out of that, and then we drift into Matt's story, and it's Matt Hagen, Clayface, and how he became Clayface, and he's recanting to his girlfriend, but it's done in this great manner. And Grant does this beautifully, where she's writing in her diary, and it's her scribe. It's her story of what's going on that you're reading as they're going through it. And then you, again, the face, man, like you can see Clayface in that face before he's Clayface, if that makes sense. In that
Yeah,
first
no, I get
panel.
it.
It's the grin. Everything seems a little bit more exaggerated than it needs to be. It's an elongated chin. It's a fat nose. It's a wide brow. It's a flat head. The eyes are spaced apart, and that grin is just a little too wide. But it suggests everything for what's coming. And it shows how he corrupts the mob, and he's doing the mob wrong, and he's doing the mob boss, the crime boss, Xylus, wrong. And they're coming out to get him, and he escapes, leaving his girlfriend behind, which says everything about him. And you get, again, those different narration bubbles. And as we're reaching towards the end of the first book, it's his story. From here on out, it's Matt's story. It's how did he
the burning
become?
letter.
What's that?
The burning letter.
Yes, yeah. And so now we're burning. It's as he's recanting the story, we're burning we're burning what she wrote in her papers in inversion, right? Which again is, if you've read 2000 AD Alan Grant, this is a motif that he uses a lot. Not necessarily like this blatant, but we're working backwards through stories to explain where we're headed. And then we get this. He comes across this primordial boiling clay, and it's how he describes it is just fantastic. I loved the verbiage here, and like how things are paced and how things are plotted with how we move through it, and how we get the interpretations of how he first goes in, and then once he goes in, it becomes him and it envelops him, and you get that great hand shot at the end, and you turn the page, and now he is the monstrosity.
I would say if I had one bone to pick with the entire story, I wish he didn't just like walk up to it and put his hand in it. Like,
right,
I want there to be a better,
fell into it.
yeah, or like he ran into the cave and fell in or something. Like that just seems like something, I don't know.
No, and that's a really good point. And my take on that is, I think Grant's intention here, based off of some of the stuff we're going to start talking about when we get to issue 90, the second part of the story, is the journey of Matt to Clayface is supposed to be a corollary to Bruce Wayne to Batman, because we're early in his career. And if he was to fall in, it's not his choice. Him reaching in is his choice. And so you need Matt to make the choice to touch it to become Clayface, in the same way that you have the choice of Batman or Bruce to become Batman. Because that's what I take away at the end, based off how everything works. But then as he's explaining this to his girlfriend, you finally get the revelation, right? The name association with the character we all know, which is the greatest body horror character in all of Batman's rogues gallery, Clayface. And it hits on every note that you want it to hit on up to this point for a body horror story. It's absolutely just firing on all cylinders. The art and the story are blending perfectly. And then we jump back.
Hang on a minute. Hang on. Jump back.
Yep.
Jump back a page. Can't say enough good things about the color. The way dirty orange, the way the sharp light blue and the dirty orange play off each other that's some pretty good color theory.
No, for sure. And I mean, while we're dwelling on this page too, and I do apologize for the scans that I got. I understand that they're barely legible for what you can do. But panel 3, I love the dialogue. He's no, look, it's me. I'm it, Clay. Clayface. And then he laughs. And then his girlfriend, who's just terrified, says, Matthew, if you can maybe you can change in other ways. Try to concentrate. Wish to be yourself again. Imagine it. And then he starts transitioning back into himself. And then we switch immediately back to Batman. And what does Bruce Wayne look like? He's beaten to a pulp. He's damaged. He's broken. There's ramifications to his actions, and those carry over into his life. I loved this about that. But he's still investigating. This is the aspect of that's so often lost in so many Batman stories. He's still the detective. He's trying to figure out what makes sense.
I love the inner dialogue though with Batman, as being just mortal, scared, terrified, but not letting that come out.
Well, and that little narration bubble that's right there in the center above the lamp, it says, I don't tell him that every time I close my eyes, I see coffins and see dead men's brains. Like he's overconsumed with death, and he's concerned about his own morality. And that becomes a point of the story, because he's only 3 weeks into his journey as a hero at this point, and he hasn't had his ass beat like this yet. At least that's the implication. And so he's starting to consider his own mortality, and that becomes part of the story, which again, it fits into that Grantian method of thinking and talking about these characters are human, and they have human emotions and human things, and they're reflecting on their mortality. And that's taken into account, even on a hero the sake of Batman. And Snuggy says, looks better than the pit scans. Thanks, Snugs. Student of God says, I think Clayface is probably going to be the next Batman movie. There is a standalone Clayface movie that's a body horror movie that supposedly only features Batman briefly. It's just his origin story. I've been clamoring that for years because it's the most obvious home run ever. Clayface it's so simple. Just give Cronenberg Clayface and let him go to town. It writes itself. Kayla says, Jesus, I couldn't find my phone charger. Snug says, I see dead people. And Oswald says, plug your phone into a potato. So there you go. But then we get the end, and what he transforms into a giant griffin, and he's consumed with power. He's like, oh my God, I can do anything. And that's where this issue ends. And all we've done in one issue is set up the hero, the protagonist, and the villain, the antagonist. We haven't gotten anywhere in the story. We've done a bunch of exposition. We've explained everything. And yet I love this issue, JP.
Well, yeah, because you have a beginning and an end to a character arc just within this issue.
For both characters.
Yes, exactly.
And it's done so well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy with it. And I'd willingly wait 30 days for the next issue. And in 30 days later, I get the next issue. I get issue 90. And issue 90 starts off with a bang. Right away.
Yeah, I don't love that cover nearly as much as the first one.
I like this. I like this because again, it goes into that bifurcation of the two. It's the compare and contrast between them, right?
I want the batsuit, like the dark gray. I would like that to be lighter, like it was in the first issue, so it stood out a little bit more and created more contrast.
See, I like the fact that this one's darker because I think the story drifts into dark territory. And I think that's why it works. But we turn the page and we get right into it, and we've already, right off the cuff, Matt's using his power. He's Clayface now. He's recognized who he is and his power, and he's immediately doing what? He's stealing. He's being a thief. He's being a criminal. Instead of using his powers for good, he immediately went into evil. And Kayla's, what a great page. Absolutely. It's a great ending. Always loved that cover, says Kayla. But we drift into that, and you get the police fighting with him, and he manipulates his hands. You get some great action shots, and he's dealing with that. And then we cut back to Bruce, and Bruce is still beaten and broken, and he's broken to the point that he's jumpy, and he jumps at Alfred, and they have a little bit of a back and forth, like, are you sure you're okay? But I want to talk about the bat wings of that bat in the main portion of the lower panel of panel 4 and how they arc across. Just exquisite panel gutter breaking. Very, very well done, where what Bruce is working on is resting on the bat wing. Just brilliant work. Brilliant work. And this is for a throwaway story that's only 2 issues, and you're getting this kind of stuff. This is why Legends is considered so well done, is because you're getting A-class talent on these little tiny stories that are just microcosms of Batman. But the guys that are drawing it, guys that are inking it, the colorists, everybody's pouring their all into it, and you're getting banging stories out of these writers that they don't have to interconnect to anything. It's just a one-off. It's they had an idea and they wrote it, and the artists fucking put it on the page and sang, and it rings out true even all these years later. Absolutely great stuff. And then where do we go from that? Now we're doing like dream sequence shit where we're almost ethereal with the stuff that's coming on the page. And what are we using instead of gutters? Now we're using smoke. Just again, brilliant stuff. You get some nice poignant moments as Matt's talking to his girlfriend, and he's jonesing, man, because he's got to be one with the clay. And I thought this was great. Just as you have Batman needs to have the bat, right? We just dealt with that in this page. He needs to have that bat motif around him. Clayface needs to get back to the clay. That's what he wants. And then we toss back, and now we're back at Batman, and this is where we're going to go back into the detective side of things, and we get the alter ego of Matches Malone, right?
Sorry, it made me think of the serials that we watched.
Right, but it has that feel, and that's what Batman needs. It needs to have that pulpy, almost hokey feel of it. Just needs to be a little bit corny. Like Bruce Wayne's face is everywhere. Everybody knows what Bruce Wayne looks like. Can Bruce Wayne just throw on a fake mustache and some sunglasses and a cigarette, and suddenly he's Matches Malone?
Sure.
But you buy it because you have to buy it because it works for the story, you know, and that's part of the pulp thing. It just works. And then again, the layouts and the structure on these pages is issue 90 sings so much more than 89 in how it flows and what Alcantara is doing on these pages. It's fantastic art. And so Matt gets back into the clay. He goes back and he gets the clay face. And again, what do we get on the gutter panels? We get this bleeding, oozing. You get a sense that it's liquid. Like the page is just blending. It's beautiful because we're not structured. We're broken. We're fragile, and we're dripping. We're oozing. We're not rectangles anymore. Now we're like more ovals and more organic. I really like how he did that. It's just such a good little touch of getting the message across.
Yeah, and she's in the background and she's over this shit.
And welcome, Dean. Dean says, Clayface is one of my all-time favorite Batman villains. I'm actually excited about the Clayface movie. Absolutely, man. And Awesome One says, pour some sugar on me. Ack. There you go. We'll play an act for you at the end of the episode, man. And then we jump back, and now Matches is doing his thing. He's getting his information. Again, it's that detective aspect of Batman that is so often forgotten and lost that it needs to have this. Batman doesn't work if he doesn't have the detective aspect. He needs to have that information gathering portion.
At the bottom, he looks like Al Pacino and Dick Tracy. Last page.
Yeah, he does kind of. And then we drift over, and then you get the transition. And this is just as important because we just made the transition of the Clayface character. He went back into the clay and came out as Clayface. it's just as important we have the moment where Bruce, who up to this point has been doing the investigative work, doing the detective work as Bruce Wayne under the Matches Malone, alias, but now he needs to become Batman. So you need to have that moment where he puts the cowl on. And the reason you need that is because he is a bifurcated character. There's two aspects to him. He is the detective, but he also is Batman. And so you have to make that delineation. Grant understands that. And so we have an entire page dedicated to that transition, just like we had an entire page dedicated to Clayface's transition back into Clayface from Matt as his powers wane. So we go from that, and we get this great scene where we're starting to set things up. We're setting up the culmination. And JP, what were your thoughts on this page explicitly? Because one of the things I thought was I've never seen a better transition from a second act to a third act in so succinctly. It's written so sharply that you don't even question anything that's being said, even though it's kind of ridiculous that within one statement, suddenly we all know where everybody's going to be.
Yeah, no, I mean, you make a good point. I love all the things that you're talking about, but man, that expression on panel 4 is incredible. I love the way the story takes the moment to discard this character with nothing more than just showing him sitting in a trash can. You know what I mean? And just kind of like you said, like we're moving into the third act, but we're also like, okay, here's where we're closing the book on this character. Dump him in a trash can.
Right. And they use, and I think it's like a fulcrum point, right? You use this character, and he only has 3 panels. But you're using him to turn the story around, but you give him a complete arc. You introduce him.
Yes.
And his introduction
every character in this book, whether no matter how minor, has a definitive beginning, because we first see this character witnessing like we see him witnessing, him going into the sewer. So every character has a definitive beginning and end.
Exactly. So there's no loose ends in this. It's as open of a story as it is. It's incredibly tight, if that makes sense. It's everything, you know where everybody left off. Like, this guy's not going to mess with anybody anymore because he got put in a trash can. He got beat up and put in a trash can. But the line I love is we get the implication of the sewers, but it's we'll find him if he takes all night. And but what about my reward? At the end, like, it's just, he's still, even though he just got beat up and thrown in a trash can, he still thinks there's some kind of justice in the world, that he needs to get a reward that was offered by these mobsters. And it's just, I love it. It's just such a nice touch. It gives that little bit of lived-in feel.
The different uses of lighting in each panel, even though it's the same scene and even though it's different, it just works because the shadow and the lighting reflects the emotion of what's happening.
Well, and it's the understanding of, it's Wallywood's panels. It's, even though there's really all the action happens in the gutter. It happens outside of the panel. You're only seeing the result. And again, it's the artist's utilization of his skill on the face. Like, there is no doubt that you can just, and this goes back to, I can't remember who said this years ago, but everybody's repeated it. I should be able to flip through a comic and not read a goddamn page, not read a goddamn thing, but get a feel for where it is. And nobody can tell me that you couldn't come across this page and on panel 4 immediately get a feel for what that guy's going through. He's terrified. And it's executed at a extraordinarily high level. And then now we've got all the pieces in place. We've got Clayface in the sewers. We've got Batman investigating. He thinks he understands where he's headed. He's still investigating. And you got the mob that's going after Matt, and they know where to go. But the one loose end, JP, is the girlfriend that loves Matt, not Clayface. And so we start getting the resolution of that. Resolution. Thank you. And where does that head? Matt becomes Clayface and then absorbs her. He just sucks her into him. And that's her demise. And then we get Batman again doing the detective thing. And again, how do we delineate that? We've got the narration bubbles. It's the same narration that we've carried through this all over for the we know that it's Batman because of that style. We've established that earlier. He's
Very
investigating
Phantom of the
sewers.
Opera.
Yep, and he puts everything together, and you do have that Phantom of the Opera outlook on how things go, and then you get the spotlight.
Yeah.
That panel third where Batman puts the spotlight on Clayface cradling his now suffocated girlfriend, and then they immediately go into a fight, and you get the last fight, and it's perfect Batman action. You get Batman with the cape flowing as he kicks, as he punches. It's great stuff, rendered beautifully. But the apex is Clayface turns into the Bat. I love that corollary, that we're flying right back at what drives you.
And you and I have talked many times about the in a lot of Stan Lee books how characters are just saying what's happening, but here it's internal monologue, so it makes sense. You know what I mean? They're not saying like he's turned into a bat and is flying right at me.
Right.
No, it's his thoughts.
No, it's your Department of Redundancy department, which is, famously this is a Stan Lee book. Shocking Tales of Redundancy. The Worm, it's the Worm, I'm the Worm. You don't get that here. This is just Batman realizing that, it's the Bat, my dark inspiration. And then boom, page turn. And we're going to get to the page turn in a minute as I catch up on the chat. The Student of God says the detective part is why Court of Owls is so popular with modern Batman comics, or even Hush. Absolutely. It's a huge part of the character that's so often neglected. This is what makes Grant and arguably Snyder, much to my chagrin. I hate to give Snyder a little bit of credit. Scott Snyder, not Zach. But he gets the detective part, and he put that into Court of Owls. And any great Batman story is always elevated from good to great when you really put that detective aspect in. Snug says it's a hoot, and this show has all the action. There you go. Inchworm, indeed. But so we get that. We get the aspect of he's touting the Bat, and then we get the final culmination of the action beats, and then the mob shows up, and the mob and Batman kind of they're fighting the same villain. So you get a little bit of they're working together briefly. But the great part here is not panel 1, it's not panel 2, it's not the inset panel 3, it's not panel 4, it's panel 5. It's just off in the corner. And you got a mobster saying, Hagen's girl, this ain't Hagen. What's going on? Whatever he is, he won't be bothering anymore. But the Bat that he was now looks like the winged demon from Fantasia. And then it transitions to a dissolved form. And I wouldn't bet on that, boss. And then you get the wave of hostility coming over, and it ends. The villains are defeated. The mob's guys are dead. Batman's alone, and he picks up a little of the residual clay, but the clay comes back to life, and he's fighting the clay. And I love that. It's like the last struggle of identity. And Clayface is spent, though, and Batman's able to defeat him. And then the book ends with Matt in jail cursing him. I will return. I'm going to find a way out of here. And he ends with the line, and crush the Batman to pulp. Then as the Batman goes away, you've got that great silhouette in the sky of the threat of Clayface in the future. I just loved it, man.
Yeah.
With the spotlights. Fantastic story. An absolute gorgeous story across 2 issues, just 2 issues. That resonates even today. And this is a 30-year-old story. So my hat's off to Alan Grant. My hat's off to the artist. Absolutely great work. A fantastic 2-parter from a series that, man, we could have put, and we almost did pick any number of 5 or 6 other stories. Legends of the Dark Knight is just a great series. Highly recommend all the books. This is a full recommend from me. Like I said, Each individual issue goes for about 8 to 9. On eBay, you can usually find the pair for around 15 with a little bit of shipping cost. I do recommend buying these. Anything you can find from issues 1 to 100 of Batman Legends of the Dark Knight is an automatic buy for me. And there's some other great ones. This is just one that we happened to pick. So before we close out the show, what were your thoughts? And
Oh no, I mean this is one of those panels that will stay with me. I looked at it for quite a long time. I think it's pretty masterful, even though it is a it's not literally what happens, but it's so good that it makes you not care about it literally being what happened. Like he didn't literally become, the father lion in the Lion King in the clouds.
Right. No, it's one of those things where, and it's quintessential comics, and it's how a comic should end. This is how a story should end. It leaves it open. Right. Hagen's in jail. He's not getting out of Arkham. How could anybody escape Arkham?
Yeah.
But at the same time, as Batman flies away, he's there looming in the distance as the future, and it's a perfect ending. You can go anywhere with this story.
Yeah.
Tomorrow it can be something else, or you would just as much believe that Hagen found his way to get out of jail through some means and became Clayface again. And the next story could be another Clayface story. It's the perfect ending.
Yeah. This panel could be the cover for the next story.
Exactly. That's what an end of a comic story should be. It should give me closure, but at the same time suggest something else. It's everything we saw when we were talking about, and I was just talking to Kayla that we need to finish out X-Men, the Dark Phoenix saga. But it's what we saw with the Dark Phoenix saga. It's the quintessential, it's that how that last page leaves off draws immediately into how the next issue starts off. The next issue in this case has absolutely nothing to do with this. But this is a great ending. And both the artist and the writer understood that we needed to have a great ending to end this. And again, this is just a two-parter. This isn't a series where 4 to 5 stories tend to be the norm. And Alan Grant managed to accomplish something that stands out in that. Amongst stories that took 4 to 5 issues for other people, he makes a story that resonates 30 years later in 2 issues. I can't credit that enough. That is such an amazing feat. And for a writer especially, and it seems like it's such a lost art now. There are so few writers that have this magic that they're able to just dip their hand in and put across the page. Grant had it, and this is a perfect example of it. And my hat's off to him. It's a testament to his skill, and it's a beautiful ode on the almost the third anniversary of his death, since he passed away in July 20th of 2022. But anything else to add on this one, JP?
No, I think we glazed enough.
All right. Well, make sure you go check out Eudaimonia, Volume 3, Goodbye on IndieGoGo. Make sure you go to barnesandnoble.com or whatever your local regional bookseller is to check out New Harlem Listen for the second installment of New Harlem. Is New Harlem still available as well, the original issue, JB?
It is on the Fund My Comic campaign in a bundle, but I think it's on Amazon or whatever your country's Amazon. You know how like countries that have like Amazon.uk, Amazon.de in Germany. If you have an Amazon in your country, it's probably on there to order.
Gotcha. So with that being said, I will be dropping the link to the Join Us in the Back Room in the chat. But before that, and before the outro, I'm going to be playing my comments from 3 years ago on CG Talk when JP was our special guest, ironically, regarding Alan Grant. And it's a clip I put together, and I want to leave that because Alan Grant means a lot to me personally. I felt I said it better back then than I could ever say it today. So I'm going to leave with that, and then we're going to go into the outro. But check the chat for the link if you want to join us in the back room, and have a great night. We'll see you next week. Thank you so much.
This is the emergency broadcast system.
And now, it's time for all this just
For well planned. All normal broadcasting has been discontinued during this emergency.
Now, one thing I definitely wanted to talk about, well, I know Aldous really wanted to talk about, was we recently lost, we recently had the passing of some comic book royalty, as you might put it. You want to speak on that, Aldous?
Yeah, so the last year's been kind of rough. I mean, we lost Tim Sale, Neil Adams, and George Perez. But this week, we lost Alan Grant. And Alan Grant, to me, means a lot. He was a writer that his career spanned decades, and man, just about probably as many titles. But I mean, a lot of people are. It really depends on where you were and when you first experienced Grant's work, because you're either going to reference him for his work on Punisher or Batman or Lobo. But for me, it was 2000 AD. And 2000 AD was a book that when I was a kid was really hard to get in the States. I didn't see it that often. And I remember both the issue and the day. And it was the summer of 1988 in July. My dad took me to an LCS. And for the first time, I saw a 2000 AD book. And I spent $3 on it at the time. And my dad was livid with me because I bought one book for $3 instead of grabbing two books off the stand. But that 2000 AD book, I still have it. It means a lot to me. It was the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that. It was something. It was 2000 AD at the time was a world of difference from what Marvel and DC was putting out. It was just as different as everything that CG is putting out compared to the mainstream right now. It was just it was a different world, and Grant took me down that path. And for the rest of my life, I've been reading his work. And this one hit me hard, man. He was a great writer. He discovered Alan Moore. That's probably like the big thing for me. And everybody likes to malign Moore for everything that he, has done since then, because he started the deconstruction era of superheroes and everything. But when he was working with John Wagner on 2000 AD and Moore submitted a spec script, and the story goes is that Grant read the script that Moore produced and turned to Wagner and said, "This dude can fucking write." And they hired him to 2000 AD. And then by his work on 2000 AD, he was brought to the attention by Len Wein. And then Len Wein hired him to work in the mainstream. And then he did Swamp Thing, and the rest is history, because it starts off Alan Moore's career. So if you remember nothing else about Alan Grant, I mean, Alan Grant is the reason that Alan Moore came over.
We got Alan Moore, yeah.
Yeah, but Grant alone, for everything that he did, from Strontium Dog to Judge Dredd to his work with Wagner, especially on Judge Dredd. I mean, some of the best Dredd stories, standalone stories, are written by Wagner and Grant. And
where's Rob Arnold when you need him? One of the only titles he's read, Dredd, and he's not in the chat.
But no, man, this guy's he was a great writer, and so many of the great writers are not given the heralding that they need to be. And this guy was a god. And you can't, there's a lot of guys that can write novels, and there's a lot of essayists, and there's a lot of great reviewers, and there's a lot of great journalists. But there are a handful of guys that can jump genre to genre, hero to hero, and write like Alan Grant did. And he was a great man. He wasn't recognized for what he did in his era, and we lost him. And it's a loss. It's the world's a little bit of an emptier place today than it was a couple days ago. And there was Professor Tim Wilson said that the world was richer for his contributions, and that I can't think of anybody that put it a better way. In that Grant was a giant. He wasn't recognized really for what he was. And I'm going to pay him a compliment. The best compliment I can pay another writer, in that I know he said it about Alan Moore, but I'm going to say it about Grant. And he was a fucking good writer.
Awesome, man. Yeah, that's the thing. When a creator like this, whether they, whether they got that recognition or not, when they have an impact on you, like Alan Grant did on you, growing up reading, seeing something like that is completely tragic. And it sucks. It's as Arrogant Ape put it, it's the passing of another legend. We lost a lot of legends recently. So yeah, man. Big shout out to Alan Grant and everything that he's done for the medium, because he's done a lot. He has done a lot. I am.
This is blood for blood and by the gallons. This is the old days and the bad days, the all or nothing days. They're back. There's no choices left.